Thanks, Kristen. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, council, staff, residents, to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, February the 18th, 2025, and we're being streamed live. I'll call the meeting to order with the land acknowledgement at exactly 6:30. We are meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We honor their cultures and celebrate their commitment to this land. We would also like to acknowledge the Mohawk and Algonquin nations whose traditional and unceded territory we are gathered upon today. Hastings County is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Thank you. Next, I need a motion that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, February the 18th, 2025 be approved as presented. And I have a mover and a seconder. Eric? Second. Jane? Any discussion on the agenda? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? I have a pecuniary interest regarding agenda item number 15.1. I own of the closed agenda. I own property in Riverside Pines. Next on the agenda is the mayor's report for February 18th. February the 4th, I presided over the regular Marmorant Lake Council meeting. February the 6th, I met with the Southeast Health Unit Medical Officer of Health to set agendas for the following meetings. The Governance Committee, which was held today. The Finance Committee is tomorrow, and the board meeting is scheduled for February the 26th. February the 11th, I participated in a midterm training session for council and senior staff. The presenter was Rick O'Connor. Rick is the former clerk and municipal solicitor for the city of Ottawa. This was an excellent refresh of information related to our roles and responsibilities as mayor and council, essential policies and procedures, council and staff relations, staff and public relations, and many good discussions on legal processes and relations with all levels of government. February the 12th, I met with staff of the Alpha organization in preparation for my role as panelist at the Alpha Winter Symposium. The three new board of health chairs for the newly merged boards of health were invited to be panelists to be introduced and provide the process and procedures and criteria we used to abolish the legacy boards and create the new boards. This was achieved in partnership, presented with a business case to the Ministry of Health, and ultimately approved by the ministry, and they awarded the necessary funding to support the transition. February the 14th, I participated as a panelist with the Alpha Winter Symposium, and Alpha stands for the Association of Public Health Agencies of Ontario. February the 18th, I attended the Hastings County Finance, Property, and Personnel Committee meeting. That was this morning. At 1 o'clock, I initially chaired the new Southeast Health Unit Governance meeting for the purpose of electing a chair. Robin Jones, Mayor of Westport, was the elected chair of the new Governance Committee. Tomorrow, I will initially chair the new Finance Committee meeting for the purpose of electing a chair. And I presided at 5:30. I presided over the regular planning meeting, and this is our regular meeting of council. Thank you. Next on the agenda are the delegations, and our first delegation is Richard Spiginga Baker Tilly regarding our 2023 consolidated financial statements audit. Richard, are you prepared?
I sure hope so, yes. Just give me one moment and I'll try to share my screen. You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine, and thank you. Here.
All right, hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, okay, good. Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here to present the results, both the audit results and the financial results for the municipality for the year ended December 31st, 2023. And as I go through, in 2023, there were a number of PSAB required changes. And as a result, then for the asset retirement obligation, which is a new thing that needed to be recorded, there definitely was additional time to gather that information. And as a result, then causing the delay in the presentation. So as I go through, as I said, I will highlight those items. So first off, what I will start off with is our independent auditors report. So this is fortunately something that hasn't changed from year to year. It is our report on the financial statements. So it is your standard 2-page document. And what we have pulled out here on the screen is what we consider the important paragraph that, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality of Marlborough Lake as at December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So that is your standard clean, unqualified auditor's report. When we say consolidated, the numbers we look at do include the operations of the library board, as it's a local board of the municipality. And then, of course, Canadian public sector accounting standards are more commonly known as PSAB. That is the way you have to report under the Municipal Act, and that is something governed a body presenting standards from the Canadian Chartered Professional Accountants Association. So, and of course, the province says you have to follow that. So you're governed by the two items there. So next we come just a review of some of the standard procedures we do for an audit to gather our evidence so that we can present our auditor's report. And this involves reviewing the minutes, gathering evidence by testing, looking at sampling, analytical review, and the big one this year is management estimates when in determining the asset retirement obligations. And as well, too, we look at your systems of how things flow through your financial system, being your inflows, being your revenues, your outflows being your standard payments to suppliers, and then as well to your employees through payroll, and then as well how you adjust things through journal entries. Overall, the audit now is complete pending council approval of the financial statement, receipt of a representation letter that is included in the one of the other documents within the agenda tonight, the audit letters, and then as well to receipt of legal letters from your legal advisors. Overall, there were no changes from our audit plan or disagreements with management and good cooperation. But as I said earlier, it just did take longer gathering the information so that we could give you a clean auditor's report. And for your municipality, the asset retirement obligation was the main change you will see in the financial statements. So then in the notes, it's fairly detailed, but under PSAB now you are required to show the liability that you are legally obligated to do things with assets that you own that need to be either remediated or returned to their original state. So this now then includes your landfill, which it always did, but it now reports it on a different format. But then as well, it also picks up things like, in your case, you're obligated under your licenses to remediate the 3 gravel pits that you own and operate, so that there's a legal obligation there to remediate them. So that is also included this year in the retirement obligation. And as well too, asbestos contamination, asbestos that you have in your assets at some point will need to be remediated or disposed of. So those type of things needed to be analyzed and captured this year. So now the one nice thing is There were no uncorrected differences, so any differences we found were adjusted. So then moving forward, you'll see on the next slide an analysis of your financial assets. So under PSAB, items such as cash, accounts receivable, and taxes receivable are all items that are considered financial assets, as they're either cash or items that will be turned into cash. When we compare it to the previous year, you'll notice that your cash did take a decrease from year to year, and part of that is attributed to the fact that your payables are down from the prior year, and as well too your receivables offsetting that are down. And the other part too is you do have some additional unfinanced capital outlay that are items that were budgeted, and they were budgeted to be funded by debt, but that debt hasn't come in yet. That was subsequently borrowed on a temporary basis for items such as the compactor and the rubber tire excavator, so that those items were unfinanced, and then they were cash flowed in 2024. So that's the major part of the difference there in your cash. Next, you'll see your receivables. They're down about 500,000, and the majority of that is a decrease in your HST receivable, down about 73,000. And then in the prior year, you had the water main grant outstanding of down by 320,000 from the prior year. So that's a lot of the reduction there as well. You had some funding for your disaster relief in 2022 that was receivable, and you collected that in 2023. And you have your standard water and sewer amounts owing from those user groups, and both years they were $224,000. So those are the major components in your receivables. Your taxes receivable, so these are the amounts that the ratepayers owe you. You can see there dollar-wise they have went up, but as a percentage of your total levy, you went up 0.07% to 9.37%, up from 9.30 in the prior year. So you're still considered in the low risk range according to the Minister of Municipal Affairs on the way they set their risk ratios. So that's good to see. Next, you will see that the bar chart for reflecting of the previous slide. Next, we come to who you owe money to, your financial liabilities. As I mentioned earlier, your payables were down. In the prior year, you had about a number of levies outstanding owing to both the county and the school board. So there was about a $1.2 million decrease in that liability. And as well too with the water main project, there was about $600,000 in capital items that were in the payables last year. And now that project is complete, they're no longer in your payables. Next, you have your obligatory reserve funds deferred revenue. So this represents your Canada Community Building Fund, or your gas tax, and your parkland levies. So these are the funds you've collected, but you haven't spent yet in accordance with the various agreements you have or legislation for those items. So the majority of that is your Canada Community Building Fund at $775,000. You still have some other deferred revenue, mainly related to some provincial funding that you can utilize moving forward for $65,000. Long-term debt, there was a net increase of about $43,000. You did borrow two items for $320,000 for the fire truck and a roads pickup in 2023, and you paid down $277,000 for the net increase of $43,000. And then next we come to the two major line item changes, being your landfill closure and post-closure liability. So this now is picked up in your asset retirement obligations. So you can see the line goes to zero in 2023 for that, and it gets rolled into the next line lower into your asset retirement obligations. So within there is, as I said, your landfill, and that now makes up $228,000 in that liability. And with the change in the accounting policy, they also changed how you record that. In the prior years. That liability was prorated for how much capacity you have left, but that provision is no longer there. So now it just represents the entire amount of it's expected to cost you to close it. Then the next two largest components are the asbestos remediation, and that's about $1.361 million, and a lot of that is related to your underground pipes, which do have cement that is containing asbestos. So as you move forward, and if or when these items get replaced, then that's when that liability, so 810, almost 811,000 of that $1.3 million is related to the asbestos in your underground pipes. And then the next largest component would be in your buildings, and the one larger component there would be the library building. It's estimated at around a little over 200,000 in potential asbestos in there. And then as well too, you have 3 gravel pits, and these are then 2 of them are closed and one is pretty well all used up. So as a result, then the entire cost for those items have been recorded as a liability, and both the asbestos and the gravel pits are based on factors and estimates that are out there for both on a per hectare basis for the gravel pits, and as well too for asbestos. Various costing models are out there, and you apply the amount of space you have that might have asbestos in there. So that's how that liability is created. So it's an estimate of what it might cost you to deal with that. Similar to the landfill closure and post-closure liability from the year before, for tax rate purposes, you don't raise those dollars until you think you're going to spend it. So it's, I mean, if you don't do anything with these liability, dealing with any of these items, or you're not required to, which is to me the only time I think you would want to deal with them, is then they will just sit there on the books as a liability. So. And then you will see there the 5-year chart of that. And then next you will see here the net financial assets and the trend. And of course, the largest amount why it went negative this year, of course, is the $2.8 million in AROs net of the landfill. So that's just a function of how the PSAB statements work. And then when we move along to the next page, when you look at your non-financial assets, so we recorded the liability for the asset retirement obligation as a liability, and then when you net it with the financial assets, it showed the negative $3 million. But correspondingly now, the other side to the asbestos and the landfill liability gets added to your tangible capital assets. So really there's a bit of just a flip between the lines. So that's the major difference there. And then as well too, since the gravel pits are in essence no longer in use, that they get for PSAB purposes get expensed right away. So really within there, you added $1.6 million in additions for AROs, about $2.5 million in what I like to call real additions, the amounts you paid for and expected to do within your budgets. And then you had about $1.5 million in amortization, really causing about the $2.6 million increase. So then when all is said and done, you're slightly less than $27 million in accumulated surplus. And then taking a look at your capital asset additions, the $2.5 million that were funded by the municipality this year, or paid for by the municipality this year. You will see there the two items you're going to borrow for, being the the rubber tire excavator and the compactor, make up the majority of your machinery and equipment. In your vehicles, you did have acquire a new fire pumper for almost 565,000, and as well too, you replaced a couple of roads trucks, one of which was partially funded with insurance proceeds, and then as well too, your roads and bridges. You were did some work on roads. And the major ones there were Station Road, the old Marmor Road, KOA Road, and some work on the Crow Bridge and assessment, environmental assessment. The 158 for water and sewer represents the balance of completing the water main project. Buildings represents the library roof. So, as I said, then in total, that's about $2.5 million of what the pie amounts to. Next, we come along to your TCA additions versus amortization, and you can see there that other than 2020, the additions have been more than, in some years, significantly more than the amortization, which of course means you're replenishing your assets. So that's good to see. And hopefully you're able to continue that, and ideally with additional senior level of government financing. So next we come to the accumulated surplus, which I believe this is the most important slide within the deck. It explains why you have almost $27 million in accumulated surplus, but you only have a little over $3 million in your bank. It's mainly because most of your surplus is tied up in your tangible capital assets. So when we take a look at this slide, the invested in capital assets is net of about $23.7 million, and that represents the net book value of your assets, less the debt you have associated with it, that you've actually borrowed for, plus the unfinanced capital. And then this year as well, the asset retirement obligation gets netted against that. This year too, you can see there that the library did have their surplus went from 6,000 in 2022 up to 20,000 at the end of 2023. And then it's the reserves here that you can see there that on this slide. So these are the amounts that you can utilize moving forward, and this amount is pretty close to being your cash balance too. So it's the reserves that you can, as I said, utilize moving forward, and then as well too, hopefully using some of these to help improve your capital assets and moving forward. So you can see there was a slight increase year over year. Next, you will see just the 5-year bar chart of that. And then next, we will come to the consolidated statement of operations. So this reconciliation page just gives you an idea when you look at the statement of operations as to why under a PSAB budget you are showing a deficit, which of course when you set your tax rate budget, it comes to zero. So the lower part here explains the differences between PSAB and your tax rate budget, the biggest one being, of course, your purchase of tangible capital assets and your amortization. Those you don't budget for your tax rate. Transfers to and from reserves are either a revenue or an expense in your tax rate budget, but for PSAB, they're not considered part of revenue and expenses. And as well too, long-term debt and debt principal repayments are considered financing activities, not a revenue and expense. But of course, for your tax rate budget, you need to raise those monies so you can pay the debt payments. And then when you compare that to the actual, you will see there that your tangible capital assets did come in under budget. There was a tandem plow that was budgeted that was not acquired in 2023. That was one of the larger portions of the variance there. You will see there that your change in your unfinanced capital went up 737,000, but you can see there the long-term debt issued was down as well. So it was just a timing of when you got the money in for the long-term debt to pay for the amount you have sitting as unfinanced. The majority of your proceeds on tangible capital assets is related to the insurance claim, and then as well too, you will see there that the library board had a $14,000 surplus, and then as well transferring to and from the reserves for the municipality, everything comes back to zero at the end of the year. Next, you will see the revenues and expenses, and that is one thing to keep in mind. Your revenues in years where you're adding a lot of capital, where you have received external sources of financing to fund that, the revenue gets reported in the year that you earn it. Let's say the ICIP grant for the water main, but the expense doesn't come along till years later when you amortize that asset. Next, you will see there the revenues and expenses for the year. Overall, you budgeted a little over $10 million and you came in at $10.3 million. Part of that is related to the fact that the water main project was all budgeted in 2022, whereas a portion of the federal and government Ontario grants came in when the project was finished in 2023. And as well too, you, like most other municipalities, your revenues from investment income was higher than budgeted. And as well too, the provincial gas tax earned in relation to the Center Hastings transit, that amount was higher than what was originally budgeted, but then of course your expenses were similarly higher than budgeted to the same amount. So those are some of the categories that were higher. And as well too, keep in mind that the majority of your user charges do relate to water and sewer, being about $1.3 million, as well too, with about 300,000 generated at the landfill and about 300,000 for recreation fees, and that's some additional fees there this year for operating the booster park. So then, yeah, in total it was about $10.3 million, and then the following slide shows you on a pie chart basis where it went, and as usual, the property taxation is your largest funding source. And just keep in mind, the property taxation we're showing here is the amounts only for the municipality. Next, you will see here the financial activity. So this is where your money went on a PSAB basis, and you will see there you're coming in slightly under budget. There were a number of items coming in below budget, but then of course too, your amortization was higher than budget, being for the additional amortization on the asset retirement obligations of 124,000, and the additional amortization on your new assets that you've acquired over the last couple of years of being 76,000. So that amounts to a $200,000 increase in your expenses. And as well too, the change in the landfill liability also caused your environmental services to be slightly under budget, as well as some lower costs for your sewer operations, as well too, general government coming in under budget, some repairs that for the parking area were moved forward into 2024. Your protection services is your fire operations and your policing contract, as well as your contributions to your conservation authorities, transportation services. You will see there slightly over budget, and that's as a result of just some additional costs for amortization being higher than budget. And as well too, within your rec and culture, there were some higher costs for building maintenance and operations and staffing in that one line item. And then as well to planning and development, just some legal consulting and tourism were coming in under budget, causing the variance there. And of course, the health services includes the operations of the medical center as well as the cemeteries. So as I said, in total, about $9.9 million in PSAB expenses, and the following slide gives you an idea of just the various percentages there. And then just taking a look at your expenses in a different format, you will see there that overall your salaries and benefits on a municipal basis were lower than budget, both salaries and benefits both being lower. Your interest charges were lower, and the fact that you didn't get those loans as anticipated in the budget, so your interest charges are lower. And then as well too, materials coming in a little lower, and in contracted services, the largest component in there of would be the OPP contract. And then as well too, your external transfers include both transfers to the conservation authorities, as well as the transit that was funded by the provincial gas tax. And then as well too, you will see there your amortization was higher than budgeted, as I mentioned earlier, for AROs and new assets. And then as well too, you can see there you did have a gain on your disposal of tangible capital assets as a result of the insurance proceeds. And then next you will see there just a breakdown of the percentages of your total operating expenses, and you will see there as like most municipalities, you deliver your services by salaries and benefits, and that's why that is the largest component there. So that's a summary of where things ended up at the end of 2023. Sure if anyone had any questions.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Jane.
I have questions about the financial statements for the library. Is that okay?
Okay. Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, they're on. They're on. Okay, so what I'm one part that I'm confused on. Page 14, you have an annual surplus of $20,739, but under the statements on page 31, there's a surplus. Sorry, there's a surplus of $13,898. I can't find a reconciliation number in the adjustments to tie those two together. So what am I missing?
All right. So really, it's the page numbering is slightly different than mine. Just give me 1 second. So really, the operational surplus is comes out to be $14,606 when you take a look at the slide that's on the screen now. So if you take a look at the library board individual financial statements, and if you go to our page number 32, which is your statement of changes in net financial assets, it starts off with a PSAB surplus of 13,000 and then 898. Do you see that page? And then if you add back the amortization and take away the acquisition of tangible capital assets, it'll give you the 14,606.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. And then when you take that and add it to the opening surplus, it brings you to the $20,739. Yep.
And then a couple of questions on the adjusting entries. Okay, so
Okay.
library surplus. That's good. Adjusting entry REC05 municipality repayment due to from Marmora Library 67,726.45. Are we writing off a repayment, or are we reclassifying the repayment? I don't understand the journal entry.
All right. Okay. Sorry. Which
Sorry, that's on page, your page
Oh,
9?
is it LIBREC?
Yes, yes. Now,
Oh,
Allied
sorry.
05.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Yeah. So these are what we call reclassification entries. So
Okay, right.
yeah. So that's just to balance the amounts in between the municipality and the amounts owing to or from the township. And then, as I said, it's oops. Let me get back here because then
No, is
Where were Johnson's before?
so then this represents so that then just brings it down to the amount owing to the at the end of the year. It'll tie that number back into the $3,500 owed to the municipality.
okay, so that was my question. So the 3,500 is net
Is the amount? Yeah,
owed
is the
owed
yeah.
to the municipality.
Correct? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's good.
All right. Okay. All right.
Anyone
Excellent.
else for Richard?
Do you have any questions, Mike?
Yeah, I had a couple, but just some comments. And I can't really tell where we are, if we've gone by them or not. But when you were showing up the amount of money we borrowed and things like that, page 36, 37, 38, 39. When you're doing the loans and that, can you just put down what we borrowed the money for? Because I found it confusing. I know it's shown later on what loans we got and for which equipment. But when they're showing up, it would be much nicer to show people that are looking at it what we bought for the loans, our long-term debt
Sure. And if you
that we got during the year.
so if you take a look at what we do for some municipalities in the detailed financial statements and the long-term debt note where we describe what it is, who's it payable to, and the
Yep, I understand that.
Yeah, so that we can actually put in an additional line just stating what it was borrowed for.
Yeah, it would make me happier. Sorry, because I'm reading that first, and then another 30 pages later, come across it and go, "Oh, okay, now that's what that's for." But a lot of people might not read all those pages you send out, Richard. So,
Oh, come on,
you know
it's
what I
pretty
mean?
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah, I understand that, but I just a comment.
yeah,
I
no,
already talked to
understood.
Nancy about it. She said, "Well, if you go a little further, you're going to find it." But
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right, good.
And the assets that we're setting aside money for, the asbestos and all that, those are just estimates, right? Like,
Most definitely, yes. Yeah,
so
yes, and
we really don't know if that's, and we don't know how much asbestos is in those places, if there's any or all of it, or just portions we can see.
correct. And I mean, depending on what asset it is in, you may, and if you never disturb it,
Yes.
may never have to do anything with it within our lifetimes.
Right. Well, most
Yes.
asbestos now, they don't disturb, they just encapsulate it and leave it in place.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and I
But the
never knew
sta-
sewer pipes had asbestos in them.
Yeah. Well, it's all within the concrete. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, but those amounts, because there are several $1 million, is that count replacing those pipes with different pipes when the time comes, or is that just
That is just
a must do?
that is just
You
the
know what I mean?
estimate of what it would cost to take the asbestos out of the concrete and then dispose of that part properly. Is what we were told. Is what consultants are advising. Yes. Yeah.
No offense to those people, but that concrete's just going to get taken someplace and buried. Sorry. Thank you.
I have no comment to that.
I know,
so, yeah.
no comment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
neither do
Yeah.
I.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Being none, thank you, Richard.
All right. Good. May I just add one further comment? I just wish to thank your staff for their assistance, and particularly for Victor and all his work in assisting us with the asset retirement obligations. So as like most people, I'm sure it was a pleasure dealing with the auditors. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Richard. A big thank you out to our staff for working with you to create these reports. And I was looking here a minute ago, I see where you made a comment that everything was in good order, and I think that's compliments to our staff. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Richard.
All right. Thank you. Have a good meeting.
Okay, next on the agenda. Oh, sorry. We need a motion.
Go
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, I'll put the motion on the floor that council approve the 2023 municipal audit and financial statements as presented by Baker Tilly on February 18th, 2025, and that Mayor O'Neill and Councillor Dow sign the acknowledgement of council page in the provided audit letters. I'd also like to add that I'm only signing in lieu of Deputy Mayor Stevens not being in council chambers.
Do I get a seconder for that motion? Ron? Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Eric. There is no one here for public input, so we'll move on to adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, 4th, 2025. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes? Eric, second, Mike. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Next, minutes of the special regular meeting of council for the municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, February the 11th. The recommendation is that the foregoing minutes of the special regular meeting of the council of the municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, February the 11th, 2025 be approved. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Jane? Second, Eric? Any discussion on those minutes? Jane?
I would just say that as a counselor and always learning new things about being a counselor, that I found the meeting that we had on February 11th to be very informative, and for me personally very rewarding as far as expanding my experience as a counselor.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor? That's carried. Staff reports, Victor Reed, the update on recycling for Marmorant Lake, and the agreement for eligible community promotion and education. The recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake support the alignment of a joint waste collection contract with the other 9 municipalities currently served by Quinte Waste Solutions, along with the cities of Belleville and Quinte West, for the continuation of 2 hazardous waste mobile events per year, along with access to the depot located in Belleville for Marmorant Lake residents, and that council directs staff to continue the same level of service for the non-eligible sources in Marmorant Lake provided through E360 at a cost of $37,440 annually, plus $130 per metric ton, a 20% fuel surcharge and HST, and that council directs staff to continue its contractual agreement with Harris Haulage for cardboard pickup, haulage, and disposal with delivery to the Belleville site after July 17th, 2025, at a cost of $500 per trip plus HST. That council directs staff to continue with the current arrangement with Raymond Reed for recycled material pickup, haulage, and disposal from the Marmorant landfill site to the Belleville site by enacting a new 1-year contract agreement at a cost of $140 for materials plus $600 per trip plus HST beginning July 17th, 2025, And further, that council directs staff to enter into an agreement with Circular Materials Ontario for eligible community promotion and education, and in brackets, subject to a legal review. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mike, and second. There's Ron. Any questions or comments on that recommendation? Mike?
I just like to thank Victor for putting together a very comprehensive report here. I was talking to him earlier that some of the non-eligibles we're already paying for that to be taken away. So there's two new portions to it. And the hazardous waste in Belleville, as of right now, will continue to operate down there. And we have access to it as we've always had. And the two mobile events, that's something that Quinte Waste used to pay for. Now we have to pay E360 to do it. But I think just the comments and the write-up and everything, it was a very good report. And I'm happy to see that it's all got sourced out and things will go ahead as if nothing, hopefully nothing changes in the recycling system in Ontario.
Thanks, Mike. Any other comments, Eric?
Through the chair to Victor, would you be able to address if the types of materials that are going to be collected through the recycling program, if you foresee those changing? I know there's some allusion to that in the contract and details, but do you know that at this time?
At this time, Councillor Dow, I do not know. I think it's still going to carry on, like as Deputy Mayor Stevens mentioned, should carry on as normal moving forward as far as the types of materials and recycling going to Belleville.
Thank you.
Thanks, Victor. Any other comments or questions on that recommendation? Mike?
Just one comment, if everything goes through as is, there's some communities that are not funding any of the old what do you want to call it? Non-required pickups. Several cities in the Southwest just let their businesses go on their own and are not funding pickup or recycling through them. So I think it's a good step in our direction for our ratepayers that they get service for what they pay for.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else? I'll call to a vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, report from CAO John. The status update and capital projects. And the recommendation is that council receive the CAO status update reports and capital projects report dated February the 18th, 2025 for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Eric, second. Jane, any questions or comments on John's report? Go ahead, Jane.
Thank you. It's nice to see these reports.
Any other comments or questions? Eric?
Yeah, as the report highlights, I think it's good for the public to see some of the ongoing projects, not necessarily something we cover at this meeting, but maybe several meetings ago to have a status update of where that's at, especially here where it's often projects that can stretch out over a period of months. So great information to bring forward to keep the public informed of what staff is working on.
Thanks, Eric. And thank you, John. I agree. It's nice to have those updates. And then the other thing is we don't lose track of items then when, there's a tracking system in place. So thank you. Any further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Committee and board reports, Quinte Waste Systems, minutes of the November 18th, 2024. And Marmor Lake Public Library Board, the minutes of November 21st, 2024. And the recommendation is that the foregoing minutes and reports of the committees and boards listed are hereby received for information. I have a mover and a seconder. Jane, second. Ron, any discussion on any of those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence, Hastings County Council report from January the 28th, 2025. And the recommendation is that council receive the report for information. And I have a mover and a seconder, please. Eric? Second? Mike? Any discussion on that recommendation? Eric?
Page 133 under Planning and Development Committee update. I'll just read it, the sentence. Hastings County Planning staff have been working closely with the Township of Sterling Rodden to amend the official plan to allow for new subdivision development that will contain single and detached dwellings. My point here is it's good to see the county taking involvement in that process to allow opportunities for development like that, and hopefully that will carry on here as well.
Thank you, Eric. Mike?
Also in the report there, the housing development or the apartments in Deloro are started at this point in time, and the county is keeping track of that as we go. The other thing is the paramedics are traveling with working with mental health workers in real time. So sometimes if there's a problem, somebody's got mental health issues, they'll take one of the support workers with them and go. The OPP have been doing that now for the last year and a half, and they find it works very, very well. They can de-escalate a lot of situations, and the people that are involved, they get hooked up with somebody who can help them within a few days after the incident. And it's better off for the OPP and for the person involved. Everybody's a win-win situation, but it's working very well. And I'm glad to see the paramedics are taking these people with them too. Excuse me.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else have any comments? All in favor? That's carried. Building Inspection Services Board report for December 2024. And the recommendation is that council receive the report for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Ron? Second? Mike? Any discussion on that report? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Joyce, I know, Women in Wellness Marmor regarding International Women's Week proclamation, and that council hereby declared that March the 1st to the 8th, 2025 is International Women's Week in Marmorand Lake. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Eric? Second? Mike? Any discussion? I was just going to report that I believe John and I've been invited to, and everybody's been invited actually, but I'm supposed to do a ribbon cutting at the nursing home or the retirement home. I believe it's March the 5th, and it's in honor of Women's Week proclamation. So anybody's invited that would like to go and celebrate that week. So can I'll call to a vote. All in favor? That's carried. Announcements. Anyone have announcements? Eric?
Thank you. I have a few. Couple of thank yous. First of all, thank you to the Marmor Lake Events Group and the Marmor Lions Club for organizing an amazing family day at the community center, along with the soup contest. The kids had a blast and enjoyed games, crafts, puzzles, hot dogs, drinks, popcorn, and lots of ice cream in the ice cream eating contest. Thank you to the local businesses that supported this and the volunteers. To name some of those businesses that did support it: Broadbent's Home Hardware, Top Quality Auto, The Scottish Painter, Cedars Wellness, EXP Realty Annabella Stoic, Off the Porch, and Who Knew. It was a great day. Local resident Kelly Greenlee is heading up a campaign for Craft Hockeyville, a program which provides contest-based funding for arena upgrades. You can visit Craft Hockeyville and search for the Marmor Arena. There you can upload stories about our rink, photos, and messages of support to support the Marmor Arena campaign. Thank you to all those that have taken the time to write stories and participated in that. On that rink note, work continues at the outdoor community rink. It's in great shape. It's being very well used and enjoyed. and there's still many weeks left if you haven't got a chance to put your skates on and go out. Thank you to all those who have stepped up to help the Iceman Merv keep it clean over the past week when we've had so much snow. Budget's freezing for a reason. Polar Plunge in support of the breakfast programs at Marmora Public School and Sacred Heart was postponed this weekend due to weather, but is rescheduled for Saturday, the 22nd at 1 p.m. at Booster Park. Everyone is welcome to come out and watch the plungers and enjoy hot chocolate and hot dogs from the Lions. The last note, the 2025 budget has been released and is available on the municipal website. There are many opportunities for residents to provide feedback, comments, and suggestions. So I encourage you to take advantage of those. You can reach out to myself or any other member of council. If you would like to meet in person or schedule a call, feel free to reach out to me. You can also participate in the budget process by attending in person or via Zoom and speak at the public budget meeting on March 11th or by submitting written correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
This afternoon, I attended the mayor's meeting at Madoc Township, and it was attended by mayors in Hastings County, and I went in the stead of our mayor as she was unable to attend. And it was an information session where municipal representatives could talk about the challenges that we're having, that all municipalities are having, and it was a chance to discuss these with residents of the municipalities. It was quite interesting.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else? I would just like to give a big shout out to our works crew for the great job that they did over this past weekend. My guess is there's nobody working there that has seen this much snow before and had to deal with it. And unfortunately, it was over Family Day weekend, so I'm sure a lot of them worked instead of being with their families. And I would just like to congratulate Dylan and thank him and his crew for the good job that they did. So thank you. Next, we need a motion to go into closed session. That council proceed into a closed meeting session under the Municipal Act, Section 239(2) F. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose regarding Riverside Pines, and D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and it's regarding union negotiations. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Eric and Jane, all in favor? That's carried. So we'll give Kristen a few minutes here to get us set up, and we'll move into closed.